What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Stand Your Ground.
Shipping up to Boston. What
is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Stand Your Ground. I'm your host, as always, Alex Benson. I am joined by both members of the Mighty Whites podcast, Jack and Casey.
You all right?
I thought you were going to say the Mighty Whites cod piece then.
You know what? We might as well start with fucking shit, because it's just going to end up being a shit podcast. Our running theme.
I'll tell you what, stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned.
Selling it, mate. Selling it.
But speaking of selling, have we got an offer for you? If you use code SYG2020 at checkout at manscaped.com, you can get yourself 20% off and free delivery. They've got a fantastic range of products that you can use. They've got a fantastic little travel bag that you can get with the Lawnmower 3.0, which guarantees no snags, no cuts, and glides effortlessly. And they have all the equipment to take care of your crown jewels. I'll play a quick little promo video, and then we'll get back straight into some football. Yeah, guys, as you can see, scrolling across the bottom of the screen, use code SYG2020 at manscaped.com for 20% off and free delivery. So we might as well jump straight into the game roundup, because we've got some midweek fixtures to look at and some weekend fixtures to look at. We won't dwell too much on the midweek ones. We'll run through those quickly enough, because by now, most of you have probably forgotten they even took place. So we'll start with the game roundup. First game, Sheffield United picking up their first win of the season. Whoa.
With a penalty.
Yeah, it was always going to be the case, wasn't it? They finally get a win. Billy Sharp pen.
I thought you were going to say they finally get a win. It's Newcastle. No one's surprised. The other season you look back to is Derby County's ill-fated Premier League season. One win that season against Newcastle. So it seemed like fate.
There are similarities between Billy Sharp and Kenny Miller.
Or Rob Earnshaw. Either works, to be honest.
Quick comments. Laughs Rec, which is a audio podcast here at The Buzz. Go check them out on SoundCloud. And Joe from the Working Fans podcast as well. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Not doing much for the stereotype that everyone and the dog has a podcast.
Yeah, it's about time that Sheffield United got them. In fact, actually, this is technically back-to-back wins if you count the FA Cup.
No one does.
No, as a Leeds United fan, the FA Cup doesn't exist, I think you'll find.
After this weekend, neither does the Premier League.
Yeah.
Man United picking up a 1-0 win against Burnley, taking them to the top of the table, 3 points clear. Just have to keep mentioning that whilst it lasts.
I'm trying to remember who I heard say it. That I'm sort of glad they've done it, because there's none of this joint top bollocks now.
Yeah.
You weren't. You were second. There's such a thing as goal difference.
Yeah. I mean, you're better side in this one, Man United, and did deserve to win game, but Burnley could have. Burnley, like, they had so many sort of decent chances to break and decent chances to do something, and somehow contrived to not have a single shot on target. And it wasn't like, oh, it's because they were just pinned back the whole game and never got a chance to break. They just didn't do anything when they did. Good goal from Pogba. Like.
Yeah, to be fair, I felt harsh for Harry Maguire having that goal taken off him. You'd have thought VAR would have been able to jump in and be like, yeah, that's probably not a foul, but I guess that's up to the refs.
In all fairness, Burnley were owed one after the goal they had disallowed against us, so I think that's the makeup right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Everton picking up a 2-1 win at Wolves. Alex Iwobi got them with a 1-0 lead. Then Ruben Neves equalised before Michael Keane scored in the 77th minute.
I won't say much about Wolves because we'll come on to the more recent game and it's more relevant then.
Yeah. Man City beat Brighton 1-0. Spurs and Fulham drew 1-0.
Hang on. We've got to go back a second here because something magical happened in this game. A back pass was given. A back pass was given, and it was absolutely not a back pass, and that's coming from me, Mr. Everything's a back pass. It was amazing to see. I stood up and applauded.
Yeah, Spurs and Fulham played a 1-1 draw, which should have been Villa versus Spurs, but it was postponed due to COVID reasons. So they just rearranged the fixture, which was Spurs and Fulham that had already been postponed earlier this month, I believe. I think it was the first week of January. Yeah. That game was postponed from.
Scotty Parker was not happy.
No, I dare say he was happier once they got a 1-1 draw at Spurs.
Yeah.
Arsenal and Palace playing a 0-0 draw. We'll move on from that.
That really, even in highlight form, that was dull.
Obviously, like games that are on Sky and stuff like that, they'll typically play them again that evening late on, and then they'll probably replay it a couple of times through the day. And honestly, I would have picked any other Premier League game you could think of to play in place of that one.
Yeah, knowing Sky, they'll have seen it and gone, we'll play more Premier League years instead.
Hey, it's a great show.
Fine.
So, on to this weekend's game, and we start off with Sam Allardyce's first win as West Brom manager.
A goal fest.
Yeah. All it took for Sam Allardyce team to score 3 goals was 2 penalties.
and the signing of Rob Snodgrass.
Yeah.
Also, it came against the team that he supports, apparently.
Oh, he's big Sam the Wolves fan.
I heard that as well. Seems like I would never have guessed.
It's the only thing that Sky would not stop mentioning was how big Sam Allardyce is a massive Wolves fan.
Well, he's a massive anything. But no, this it's a really good result for West Brom. I know that they were both penalties, but it was good to see them, from their point of view, actually starting Mateus Pereira because he's their most gifted player by a distance. The first penalty, just like the Leeds one again that got given for Spurs, I'm sure that the actual contact was outside the box.
It was very close. I was thinking VAR were going to come back and give it like a free kick just on the edge of the area.
I don't mind as well because you've got that combination of that, and it was also quite, it had to be a foul, but it was a very soft foul.
Yeah, when they got, it was well tucked away, but as soon as that went against them, I thought, oh right, West Brom, this is the situation that they should be good at with Sam Allardyce now. They can stick men behind the ball and just defend, and that's what they should be good at in theory. So they conceded twice in 5 minutes.
To be fair, I think the first goal in particular, the back heel from Bolly to Fabio Silva was really good.
Fabio Silva used his body really well as well, just to create that gap so he could get his shot away. I thought for someone as inexperienced, well, I say inexperienced, as young as him, I should probably say, I do a really smart play.
Yeah. Admittedly, I cannot bring myself to think of him as this young player with loads of potential, because he was best part of 40 million quid. And I'm sorry, but if it's 40 million quid, you can't go, oh, he's only young. Nah.
Yeah, but it was good for him to get amongst the goals, especially seeing there's a possibility that Raul Jimenez may have to retire from football now. There's been reports saying that he's doing really well in his recovery, but at the same time, they don't know whether he's going to be able to make a full recovery to play football, because I think as a striker, you've got to put your head in there. Especially with the way that Jimenez plays his game as well, as like a target man in the box. It's probably not the best thing to throw a guy on with a fractured skull to try and win headers 30, 40 times a game.
As soon as it happened, I thought that could be him. Because, I mean, it did for Ryan Mason, and Ryan Mason was in his, what was he, like 24 at the time? Raul Jimenez is 31. He's been at the top level long enough that he's got plenty of money. If he wants to get into coaching, I'm sure that Wolves will put him through his badges and give him a job. Hopefully I'm completely wrong and he makes a full recovery and comes back, but I would be surprised.
He wouldn't be the first player to play outfield with a scrum cap, because was it Ian?
I was thinking of, did Ian Hume do it for a while?
Yeah, Ian Hume, because he had a massive scar, didn't he? Right away.
Yeah.
Across.
And then you're thinking of Christian Kivu, who did it, I believe.
Yeah. Oh God, what was his name? Because it was that Sheffield United centre back that did in Ian Hume, wasn't it? Chris Morgan?
Was it Chris Morgan?
I think it was Chris Morgan. I'm about 85% sure.
But yeah, fingers crossed we may see him back in the Premier League again at some point. But on another note, it's nice to see the young striker get a few games and finally get a goal under his belt in the Premier League.
It's just a shame Wolves are a bit shit.
Yeah, a lot shit.
Yeah.
I was going to say the second goal as well. As much as Bolly reacts well to finish, the second goal was dreadful defending from West Brom. That was so poor.
Yeah,
it's everything you wouldn't expect from a Sam Allardyce team.
To be fair, though, I think the goalkeeping for the Ajayi header was pretty poor as well. I think it was going slow enough that he didn't need to dive. He probably could have chased over and got to it, but because he'd thrown himself to the floor, there was no way he was going to get to it. But moving on from that game, Leeds 0, Brighton 1.
Leeds are in complete crisis, apparently, which is why I'm glad this comes after the Wolves game, because Wolves aren't in crisis at all, which seems a bit weird to me, with Wolves, being below us and having not won at all in the last 5 or 6 games.
Despite being in the Europa League quarter-finals last season.
Yeah, but we're the newly promoted side in 12th. We're in crisis.
Where are the other two newly promoted sides, by the way? Just as I assume that Fulham must be competing for the title or something.
Yeah, they're both chasing Europe in 18th and 19th place, I believe.
It's so odd. No messing around here. Leeds were awful yesterday.
We were shy. We deserved absolutely nothing, and Brighton deserved to win.
But the way we get talked about at times is bizarre, and yet there's this loving for Scott Parker, who has got Fulham playing better, and they've got a number of draws recently. But they are in the relegation zone.
Yeah.
But no one's going, Fulham, all the money they spent on that team. Mitrovic can't even get in the team.
I've got a few questions for you from this game, actually. But we'll talk about the goal to start with. Luke Ayling falling asleep, not even looking to see where his man was. It was one of a few errors, but it was the most glaring. Pascal Strout got caught upfield earlier in the move where he just ended up out of position completely and couldn't chase back. Stuart Dallas didn't really stay with the 1-2, but the biggest error is Ayling, because he plays him onside
and more importantly, he was the one going back with Maupay the whole way, and he just wandered off away from him. It's not even like, ooh, clever movement from Maupay. Maupay just stood still, and Luke Ayling wandered off.
Yeah, I think one of the annoying things will be the people who speak against our man-to-man system will look at that and because for the split second I'd forgotten about it. My thinking was, well, where the hell's Stuart Dallas? But Stuart Dallas is vaguely with his man.
Yeah.
But if you're not playing man-to-man, you'd essentially have your right back there who will see that and at least try and get across to cover it. But yeah, just because of the way we play, it's solely down to Luke Ayling who has just switched off.
Yeah. To be fair, in this game, there was a lot of this. Like Ben White was the main example, which hurt from a Leeds fan's point of view, obviously. But the number of times he picked up the ball and drove through midfield, and because he had the beating of Click or Rodrigo, because they don't always end up on the same side. But their central midfield just had the beating of ours because they had Gross and White. And every single time they'd get away from the first man. And then all of a sudden, because it's man-to-man, we're in trouble the whole time. Brighton didn't really test this keeper that much, which is weird, because they should have done, because he'd have definitely let him in.
Because I can only imagine, like, just before the game, when they've seen Casillas' name on the team sheet, and there've been rumours about Meslier being ill in the days leading up to the game anyway, so it wasn't the most unexpected thing. It was disappointing, but it wasn't unexpected. I can only imagine, in the dressing room, Brighton players going, all right, Ben, what can you tell us about Casillas, sorry. And they're just going, if you take a shot, yeah, it'll probably go in.
I was going to say, the other thing from a Leeds point of view in this game, 0.3 XG for 90 minutes, which I aren't 100% sure, but I think is the lowest we've ever had under Marcelo Bielsa, which just shows how little we created.
I know in the first half, I think Bamford only had possession 4 times.
I think by the end, I think I already touched the ball 11 times by the end of the game.
It's one thing doing it when you kind of put your under-23s out for the second half against Crawley and there's no cohesion there. That is, certainly from the midfield forward, is nearly our full-strength team. You're just missing Calvin Phillips, essentially. And he was a big miss, to be fair. But they look like a group of players that haven't played together before at times. Just the amount of times we misjudge someone making a run, or we're just playing long balls to no one. It was just, I don't know what it was, because we did it the whole game, and it's not we never even seemed to get into our rhythm at all. There were very few times we ever got to the byline.
Potter deserves a lot of credit though for where he managed Brighton. He set us up into traps, forced us wide, doubled up on us, got pressure on there, won possession back all the time. They had 5 centre-backs on the pitch. Because they had Veltman at wing-back and they had Ben White in centre of midfield. And they just forced us wide and made us cross the ball. And all of their players are 4 inches taller than all of us. So we just never got near it. So it was very well managed by Potter. He did a really good job. And they didn't have any players who I think were below a 7 out of 10. And I think we only had maybe 2 that reached a 7 out of 10. So just all over pitch, they were just better than us and deserved to win.
So I've got 3 questions for you. See though you're a Leeds United podcast, and if you haven't checked them out, check out Mighty White's pod.
Hey.
First one, while you've got Diego Llorente on the bench, why do you think it's a smart move by Bielsa to keep Ayling in that centre-back role and not play Llorente and Strike together?
Do you want to go, mate?
Llorente essentially will be a fitness thing. Bielsa, bearing in mind the reason he came on at Chelsea was, one, Koch was an injury doubt going into that one, and we just didn't really have anyone else. Bielsa is typically very strict with the game time he gives players until, 1, they are familiar with the system, and 2, until they're up to speed. So really, it will be him holding him back a little bit until he thinks he's got the fitness levels and the game patterns down for it.
Yeah, for instance, Leeds as under 23s, I believe, play tomorrow. I expect Diego Llorente to start that game.
Yeah.
To get some fitness, because we don't play again now until the 26th, because our game on Wednesday against Southampton got called off because they have to play Shrewsbury in the FA Cup, and that got knocked back because of Shrewsbury having COVID cases.
Yeah.
So we've got a big gap now, so I think that he'll try and run up his fitness, and I think next time out it will be Llorente and Cooper, I think.
There was a lot of talk from Leeds fans before the Crawley game that Click really needed a rest, and he didn't look great in this game either. Is there part of either of you two that wants Jamie Shackleton to start the next game over Click?
I want Jamie Shackleton to start, but I want him to start in place of Rodrigo.
I would have taken Jamie Shackleton in any three of the midfield positions yesterday, to be honest. Whether it's tiredness is definitely up for debate. Click is massively out of form, certainly.
Basically, Marcelo Bielsa in a press conference about 6-7 weeks ago said Mateus Click could play in any team in the world. And at that point, he was playing brilliant. And everyone was like, well, it's a touch of a stretch, but he is playing that well. And basically, since he got that compliment, his form's gone off a cliff.
Yeah, and the other one was about Rodrigo, because there's part of me that thinks Rafinha's really good on the wing and to cut in, and he's got such a good shot from just outside the area.
Which is strange that we played him as left winger the whole game.
Yeah. There's part of me that thinks, would he fit the number 10 role better than Rodrigo, and you start Poveda instead?
Oh.
I'll let you go, mate.
I think I said this on here last week. I'm not as high on Poveda as some people are. I think whilst his footwork is good and it's great that you see someone playing without the fear and willing to take players on, the issue is playing like that in Bielsa's team doesn't really fit that well, just because of how organised everything is. That there are set plays to everything. For me, Harrison and Rafinha are our two best wingers, but by a fairly long way. At the moment, if you were going to take Rodrigo out, for me, it would probably be Pablo Hernandez that would have to come in, because I think he tends to play deeper and he gets himself on the ball. He directs play where, especially when we don't have Calvin Phillips in the team, he's the one that's going to pick out those diagonal balls and get the play out to the wings. I wouldn't mind seeing Rafinha in the middle, but I prefer to keep those two wide.
Yeah, when we signed him, Bielsa did mention him as a central option. So I think long term you might well see him move inside, but I don't think that'll be this season. I think if it's going to happen, it'll be after he plays a load of friendlies and trains in that position over the summer, and then you might see it.
Yeah, is there room for even Harrison to move over to the right and Alioski to play on the left?
Harrison on the right, definitely. I mean, Harrison played on the right yesterday, and admittedly, it's not saying much, but I thought was probably his best player, him or Liam Cooper. But I wouldn't be clamouring to push Alioski up onto the left. And to be honest, I really like Alioski, but if you're going to be a Premier League side, Alioski should not be in your starting lineup.
Yeah,
he works his ass off. He is fine. He can be in your squad, but he shouldn't be starting every week. He's not that level of player.
Yeah. Actually, just before we move on to the next game, I forgot to flash this up at the start. We will be talking about a certain Wayne Rooney who's recently retired to look towards his managerial career rather than his playing career with Derby County. If you want to let us know in the comments, if you're watching this live, any of your favourite moments from Wayne Rooney's career, whether that be his time at Man United, maybe it's an England moment. It might be when he flipped the camera off when he scored that penalty against West Ham. Who knows? Let us know in the comments. We'll flash them up on screen. But yeah, moving on. West Ham 1, Burnley 0. Mikel Antonio getting the goal for West Ham. You know what? More than talking about the game, I want to talk about West Ham's idea of we're going to sell our top striker, Sebastian Haller, to Ajax for half the price that we paid.
I will say, top is a debatable term.
All right, okay. Top goal scorer.
Are we including the League Cup in this?
Well, it's between him or Suchek.
I mean, it was very funny just because he scored on his debut, didn't he, for Ajax as well? Just to really, and all football fans have been there with the irony of watching a disappointing player go on and do something daft like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I can say Casey's thoughts on Haller because I got a message off him that just said, "Jesus, West Ham have done well to get 22 million for him."
Yeah, fair play to them for recouping half those funds.
Yeah, it obviously shows that West Ham are probably in the transfer market now for another striker. Whether they're going to be willing to splash the cash out like they did on Haller or not is yet to be seen. But it's nice to see Antonio back in the side and scoring goals for him.
Yeah, I really like Antonio. I think he's a really good player, and he's like a good player, but he makes the most of everything that he's good at. You know, he seems to be one of those players that really he knows exactly what he's good at. He does that well. Apart from when he was playing at right back, because he wasn't good at that, but pretty much everything else he's done solidly, and I think that's his position. He'll stay, provided he can stay fit. He'll stay in the team rest of the season and play up front, because I don't think West Ham are going to spend a lot of money on a striker because their owners won't want to, and they're ninth, so they're not going to go down. So there's no need to. They might in the summer, but they're not going to do it now. I don't think.
I'm just looking at his career, and it's wonderful.
I want to say. Oh, I know it was a non-league team. I want to say Tooting and Mitcham.
Oh, fair play, Jar. That's a great shout. It was Tooting and Mitcham where Reading found him.
Was he at Forest?
He was at Forest.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Because I was thinking then, have I just made this up and he went from Reading to West Ham, or did he go to Forest at some point? Yeah. Moving on. Fulham 0, Chelsea 1. Mason Mount scoring in the second half. Chelsea really struggling to break down this relegation battling Fulham. But to be fair, there's been teams that have not done it, such as Liverpool and Spurs, that haven't come away with 3 points. So, but it is Lampard's first win, I think, in January in the Premier League.
Yeah, it was first one for a while. I mean, I'd love to go, because I do obviously very much dislike Frank Lampard and Chelsea. I'd love to say, oh, they were lucky. They very much did deserve to win this.
It certainly didn't help, because I thought Fulham were defending fairly well first half, and then you get the really stupid tackle for Anthony Robinson.
Yeah, I don't know why you did that.
No, it's because it's, you're 30 yards from Chelsea's goal. It's not a position he needed to make that tackle at all.
And it's 2 minutes before half time?
Yeah.
He looked very frustrated by the fact that he wasn't getting around Azpilicueta the way that I think he was expecting to. But you can't lose your head like that.
No, and for the goal, it was a pretty good finish. They had a few chances. Obviously, in the end, Mount got the goal, but I think it was Mount again that hit the bar, not that earlier in the game and stuff. Timo Werner had another not great game by all accounts. I only saw about 2/3 of this. But he just appears to be out of form. But unlike a lot of strikers, I really do think Werner will come good. I'm hoping that they give up on him, sell him, and then he comes good somewhere else.
Yeah, at the moment, Tino Werner's
he can come to us. He can come to us, and we'll play him at 10, and then drop Rodrigo to centre mid.
Well, if he comes to us, he ain't displacing Bamford.
Yeah, Timo Werner at the moment making Sebastian Haller look like a superstar at West Ham. Final game of the Saturday, Leicester 2, Southampton 0. My prediction of Southampton winning the league is not looking good.
If one of these two teams could string like 5 wins in a row together, they'd go somewhere. But they'll win 3 and then lose the next 2. And
I think that's harsh on Leicester. Leicester are second.
They're fine, but they're going to drop off because they'll play someone half decent and then they'll lose. And I like Leicester, but they're going to finish like 6th, which is still good, but. Now
it was weird watching this game as a neutral because I do like both these sides. And it's quite rare to find teams I don't actively dislike, but these are too. But I thought Leicester were really good throughout in this, to be honest. Just the better side right the way through. Southampton weren't awful by any stretch. I just thought Leicester were better than them. I thought Tielemans was really good again. I really liked him.
I was going to say that Belgium have obviously produced some great players in the past decade, but he seems to be one of the ones that are coming through now. And you think, yeah, he's although he's not going to be a part of that golden generation where Hazard, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and De Bruyne all came through. He's like the next thing for Belgium to start building a team around.
Is he everything?
Kevin De Bruyne. Because he might not be able to build a team around Tielemans because De Bruyne's in the way.
I was going to say, is Youri Tielemans everything you wanted Adnan Januzaj to be at Man United? But
he's everything I wanted Fred to be.
The Leicester team looks really really nice at the moment. Between Barnes, Vardy, and Maddison as well at the moment, those 3. Are playing some fantastic football at the moment. Like you say, Tielemans is in there as well. When they're going, Leicester are so fun to watch.
Yeah. And now that they've got Ndidi fit again as well, that really helps for midfield and helps the balance of the side. Like, that makes a great difference to them for me. And obviously, Mark Albrighton starting again, just showing what a great decision it was for Aston Villa to release him on a free.
Yeah, you talk about 2 holding midfielders that in the Premier League, and having Ndidi and Tielemans as your 2 holding midfielders, like that rivals the so-called top 4 in the league for midfields.
Yeah, no, that's a hell of a midfield too to have in a 4-2-3-1. I really like Leicester. Of the ones that I think have. I mean, I still think Man City are going to win the league despite being 5th. But I would say it is realistic to say Leicester can win the league. I don't think they will, but I don't think that I think that they're in the conversation for it. I really do.
Yeah, we've been burnt with this before. Before we move on to the Sunday games, I'm going to run a quick promo of all the things that happen live on the Buzz Network. You can go check it out at WTB.com on Facebook or on Twitter and Instagram. So check out this run order.
War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them I'm ready, any opponent. The crown heavy and every minute is chosen. A path only fit for kings, and you don't know what this court means. What did you enlist for? If it isn't getting more rings, then you gon' have to switch your team. Trust me, it gets more mean. I'm a nightmare going up against your dreams. First step is explosive like a bomb hit. Bet if I let it fly, I cannot miss. And you ain't got a chance at the top 10 when you getting clamped all night by a locksmith. On the block, throwing lobs to my top bigs. I'm a chef, no look, what's the top dish? Tie game, through the pressure as the clock ticks. Crossover, step back, hit a shot, quick. Tell them that's what we ready for. Tell them that's what we ready for. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. This is how champions are made, but it never happens in a day. It's all hard work, but it's why what happens when we play 9 out of 10 times. I'ma left you.
Yeah, check out all the other fantastic live shows here on The Buzz. One that has been added and will be going on live after us tonight, Whiskey Cinema. They're back. They do a fantastic show talking about all different topics from films. Each show is catered to a different topic. It's fantastic. So make sure that you stay around on The Buzz and check that out tonight.
When you say there's different topics, are the topics different types of whiskies and different films?
Yes.
Cool.
So now moving on to the Sunday. Villa versus Everton was meant to be the first kickoff today, but that got postponed. Obviously, Aston Villa have got COVID issues at the moment. And they had to field basically their under-23s in the FA Cup just so they could play that game, but it's going to affect them in the Premier League.
Yeah, I know that you'll have talked about it last week, but just to say, those under-23s put up a really, really good effort against Liverpool. Fair play.
I'd even said I was hoping that Liverpool were going to batter them in revenge of what Villa did to their under-18s when Liverpool went away for the Club World Cup. But no, apparently Villa's children have more fight in them than those Scouse teenagers.
Yeah,
which is surprising, really.
Yeah, because there's not many groups of people more up for a scrap than the Scouse teenagers.
So the actual first game of the Sunday, off the back of their 2-game winning run, Sheffield United lost 3-1 to Spurs.
Spurs were real. Spurs. In fact, I'm not going to say Spurs were really good in the first half. Spurs were good in the first half, and that's all they needed to be. Because in the first half, Sheffield United were terrible. Actually, I'm gonna rephrase that. I was gonna say no effort. I'm sure that they were trying, but the way that they played made it look like they were putting in no effort. They were just second to everything. That battling and really getting stuck in that you associated with them last season, there was none of that. They had Ollie Norwood in middle of midfield. He was a good player. He was a good passer at ball, and he seemed to do nothing but get ball away. They just had an off day, and I think that they were lucky to still be in it at half time, to be honest.
Yeah, Spurs. It's quite nice to see Spurs for the most part set up fairly attack-minded, and it wasn't really until they got the third goal that they just sat back for a while and just thought we don't really need to bother anymore now.
Yeah, if you're in Sheffield United's position where you can't score goals, as a general rule, they just can't score goals. We get frustrated at when we concede a soft goal from a set piece at Leeds. But we, generally speaking, even though we were crap last time, generally speaking, we can score goals. So imagine how frustrated Chris Wilder must have been to just give away a completely free header, easy one for Aurier. No extravagant movement, nothing complicated, just swung in, no one marking, header, 1-0.
Yeah, it's a ball straight to the edge of the 6-yard box, and Aurier seems to take a step to the side and wins a header so easily.
Yeah, it was the sort of goal that a team that gets relegated concedes. Was that? It was really poor.
I was thinking today, and you still have to. I do think we still have to give a lot of credit to Spurs for how they played today. Because again, it was the good side of Spurs again, who seemed to have come out of their shell a little bit more. The only thing I was trying to think was, do you think because of the quick turnaround in seasons that Sheffield United, really once you're into your second season, that's when you need to take a look at 3 or 4 players that you think, right, these 4 need replacing. We need to upgrade on this, and they just weren't able to do that.
I think that's going to be the excuse for all 3 teams that go down this season, but it is the same for every team. Sheffield United did really well last season, and it would be hard for them to even match close to what they did with the squad that they have going into this season.
Yeah, they did need players, and their recruitment, I think, was really poor over the summer. As much as I rate Brewster, he's their big hope, and he's barely played, and not because of injury, just because he can't get in the side. They don't have the same balance.
Such an odd choice in hindsight, though. I know he was off the back of a good season with Swansea, but when you're that short on goals in the Premier League, what an odd choice to pick someone who's had a good season in the Championship.
Yeah, it was. It's a bit of an odd one. Like, I think the recruitment was poor, but I think that the other problem for Sheffield United is I think they were the team in the league most reliant on having a vociferous backing at home. Like, because they have a squad that is a championship squad. It's not even debatable. It just is. There's a few teams in this league that you could argue do, but they definitely do. So if they suddenly go from 100% to 95%, they're knackered. And I think that lack of a crowd and stuff really affects them worse than it does. It affects every team, but I think it affects them worse than it does anybody else. Like because even the back end of last season, after games started being played behind closed doors, they finished the season terribly as well. I think that has made a real difference to them. But I think they're knackered this year.
1-0. Sorry, 1-0 to Man City.
Oh.
The inevitable has happened. But yeah, unfortunately, I think Sheffield United are long past the point of no return at this point. And I know they're not a million miles behind 19th, but they've got 19 games left or 20 games left. If they pick, I find it so difficult to see them picking up 4 more wins in that.
Yeah.
Should we take a minute to? I think the question needs to be asked next. Ndombele's goal, did he mean it?
Well, basically, that is a question of do you watch football or not? He absolutely meant that. It's not like I will have been outside of that sort of area. Everyone has the idea I'm going to lob this into the far corner. It's just that very few of us have the ability to do it.
It's nice to see him come out of his shell and start playing football again, because when they signed him from Lyon, there was so much hype about him being this amazingly talented midfielder that could just run the middle of the park. And he finally seems to be that player a season later.
Yeah, I love watching him. I think he's brilliant. He's got an ability to just turn a player barely moving. He seems... I mean, the stats heads would say he's very press resistant. A player comes up to tackle him and he just is able to wriggle away no matter what. He doesn't do it in quite the same way, but he reminds me of Moussa Dembele in that regard a lot. Just seems to be able to pick up the ball, beat a man, and get... But Ndombele, I think he's a bit quicker. That helps as well. Yeah. I just love watching him. I think he's a cracking player, like a really top level player. If Spurs don't end up, pushing on, he'll end up going somewhere else where he can.
Yeah.
Last thing as well, and I don't want to oust you as host here, Alex. Another non-appearance for Dele Alli.
Yeah, he better, for his own good, he needs to go. I hope that they let him.
You know what? To be honest, the rumours of this loan move to PSG probably would really help his career, just to move back to play under Pochettino again and get some minutes under him.
Yeah, and if you're going to get a loan move into a side, PSG, you bet it's a great place to play as an attacking midfielder because you've almost no defensive responsibility because you've got the ball for 70% of the game.
One of the things I quite like actually is I'd love to see more. I'd love to see more top players go, or British top players go abroad, as opposed to at the moment where it seems to be, I'm 19 and I'm stuck in my under 23s, so I'm going to go to Borussia Dortmund and tear up the Bundesliga for a couple of years and then come back. Not to knock it, because it's clearly a good way of players staying in the game at a decent level and getting back to the Premier League. Yeah. But I would love to see more English players go to PSG, to Real Madrid, to Bayern Munich and teams like that, and play in Europe, because I think it can only benefit players.
This was something that I've said for 10 years now, that I always think England struggle internationally because we only ever pick the players that play in the Premier League, whereas other countries pick players that play all different kinds of football in different leagues, and they bring a different style of play. Whereas we only know one type of football, but now you've got Jadon Sancho playing out for Dortmund, and he brings a different style of play on that wing. If we could get like a centre back to go to Italy and learn their way of defending, because
listen, mate, we've already got a right back in Italy. His name's Ashley Young,
and we have got
get him in the squad.
We've got an English centre back that was brilliant in Serie A. His name is Chris Smalling. But
now that we've said this, I feel this is an argument completely against what we've both just said.
Yeah. It's interesting. I can't remember. There's an English lad that's gone to, I think it's PSV Eindhoven. He's doing really well. You've got that Yunus Musa at Valencia, who looks really good as well. So it's interesting. They are starting to branch out a bit more. But I mean, I know it's Dortmund again, but I can't remember his first name, but it begins with J. But Bino Gittens, who has gone from Man City out to Dortmund and followed the Sancho path. There's going to be quite a few of them. It's getting more common, and now luckily for all these young players, they of course have the right to just go over to a team in Europe and work without needing a work permit.
Yeah. So, you know what? Before we talk about the Liverpool-Man United match, I just want to bring something up. John Stones scoring for Man City. It's his first Premier League goal for Man City, but it's De Bruyne's 100th assist.
Ooh. But he must be getting towards a record then, because I think the record's not much above that.
I believe the record's like 114.
Yeah, that sounds roughly right. Because I'm sure, like, I remember there being something.
Apparently, the one I'm looking here, and admittedly, this is the first result I'm seeing. Ryan Giggs holds the record for most assists in the Premier League with 162.
Wow, I think that might not be accurate, because I'm sure I read multiple things saying that De Bruyne was like 30 something away from the record.
That comes from goal.com.
Yeah, it might well be right, and it could be that the things that I was reading before weren't accurate.
Hang on, where's Wikipedia?
Yeah, for just to make sure that we are fully accurate.
Oh, the sod accuracy.
Wikipedia does also say Ryan Giggs with 162, and next is Cesc Fabregas with 111.
God, he's ahead by that much as well. That I'm guessing.
Well, he's got Ryan Giggs with 632 games to Cesc Fabregas 350 games. So yeah,
sod accuracy, but it's James Milner.
Yeah, he's got all those assists just for being a good lad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Liverpool 0, Man United 0.
I'm glad we covered that. Let's move on.
You know what? We're not even going to properly talk about the game because we've run through this game roundup a lot. But I just want to talk about the Man United team selection that really pissed me off. Everyone's been raving about how good Eric Bailly and Harry Maguire have been next to each other, and they've kind of formed a bit of a partnership. And he went, "We're playing Liverpool, current champions. Victor Lindelof, come back."
I mean, obviously, I don't like Man United, so I wanted you to concede a load of goals, but you kept a clean sheet.
We did, and in fairness, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been as pissed off as what I was. But we did not attack this game. We went there to get a draw. We made 2 subs, and the 2 subs that we brought on were Greenwood and Cavani. Fair enough, they're both attacking subs, but Cavani is going on to chase the defenders and hold the ball up top, and Greenwood came on for Bruno Fernandes in the 89th minute to give him, all of 6 minutes rest.
And Fernandes was pissed.
Yeah.
The one I found strange, and I understand he's been playing well, but was putting Pogba on the right, which seems to... It's one of those strange things of, this is an acknowledgement of how well you've played in the last few games, but I also want to put in a really solid defensive duo. It said, well, I don't know if about defensive duo with Scott McTominay these days, but
best midfielder in the league from what we saw.
Yeah, it seemed an odd one to basically stick Pogba out on the right.
Yeah, I had way more qualms with what Liverpool today will be happy that they've kept a clean sheet with a centre-back pairing of Fabinho and Henderson. But even though Liverpool had all the ball and most of the play, I didn't ever really think they looked like scoring.
No.
Whereas, as much as Man United were defensive and stuff, they had the two best chances of the game.
Yeah.
Like that Pogba volley that hit straight at Alisson and the Bruno Fernandes one that was Alisson's feet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They were both really good chances. That is the other thing as well. I thought Bruno Fernandes was really poor.
It's the worst that he's looked for us, but it's also that's not his style of game, is to go and try and grind out a draw.
Yeah. But it just wasn't much of a game, and it happens all the time with games like this. Neither side could really afford to lose that game, and they both knew it. And all they did in the end was play into the hands of the true title challengers of Man City and, of course, Leicester.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were going to say Southampton then.
Yeah, that's what I should have done for the joke. But there is one thing this year. There are actually genuinely 5 contenders. As much as I think Man City are going to win it, there are 5 that could.
Yeah, because you've got Man U in first. If Man City win this game, they go second, which looks like they're gonna. Leicester third, Liverpool fourth, and then Southampton in 8th, who can really push for this win. Yeah, I mean, neither of us wanted to lose that game. I really, really was dreading it going into this game. I thought that our main target in midfield would have been Thiago with the way that he's been playing recently, and he seemed to play a bit better today, but he still doesn't look like the same player that was at Bayern.
He had some really nice moments in this, but he's just... They're not getting the best out of him. I think he needs to adjust to the system, and then he will.
Yeah, it's a tough time, I think, to be... What at this stage of the season is essentially now parachuted into this team with basically how his tenure at Liverpool has gone so far. You're coming into a team that this is your first start at Anfield as well. You're going into play top of the league. You're setting up fairly defensively whilst also not having 2 central defenders on the pitch. Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one, I thought, but
yeah. Anyway, that'll do us for the game roundup. Obviously, Man City and Palace are playing at the moment, and it's still 1-0, thanks to John Stones. So we're going to talk about the main thing. Well, I say the main thing. The main thing is the game roundup, because that's taken 53 minutes. This will probably take about 10. And we probably can't do justice for how good his career actually was.
I won't listen. I'm going to play this down as much as you like.
Yeah, that is true. Actually, you could have done better booking and getting 2 Leeds fans on to talk about this.
Yeah, well, there were supposed to be 4 of us, but yeah, Wayne Rooney's retiring to focus on his managerial role at Derby County. Retires as England international top goal scorer ever and Manchester United's top goal scorer ever. Obviously, you two will have a bit of a hatred for him for playing for Man United, but
to be honest, no, I don't really.
I think overall with Wayne Rooney, and it's weird to, you flashed that up. He is England's leading goal scorer. He's Man United's all-time leading goal scorer, and I am with that large group of people who think, yeah, there's something else to come from Wayne Rooney that we never fully saw. And certainly, I think internationally, I don't want to take away from his record, but England in qualifying groups is a totally different animal to England in the tournament itself. But I always felt internationally we never quite figured out what to do with Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, I don't just because you're on the subject, because I don't actually, as much as he played for Man United for that long and stuff, I don't actually want to just no sell how good he was, because he really was good. But the only time at international level that he ever looked like being what he could have been was Euro 2004.
Yeah.
When he was basically a kid and he was absolutely brilliant at that tournament.
It was because it was him and Owen up front in that tournament.
It will have been, yeah.
I quite like that as a partnership.
Was it 04? Was it 06 where Owen played the first game and then crocked his knee and just that was it?
Oh, that could be any number of years from about 2001 onwards.
I think it's the Germany World Cup in 06 where he crocks his knee and then it leaves Rooney and I'm going to say,
was that Crouch?
Heskey. Might have been Crouch.
Yeah, because it was against Sweden, wasn't it? So it was 06. Because it's when Joe Cole scored that awesome volley.
Oh, that was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There always seemed to be something to happen to Rooney just before we went to international tournaments. I think the 06 tournament, he had like a metatarsal break or something, like right towards the back end of the Premier League season, so he didn't go to the tournament fully fit. We didn't qualify for Euro 2008. South Africa, we didn't look the right team.
That was when he had a go at the fans for booing, wasn't it?
That was after a 0-0 draw with footballing powerhouse Algeria.
Yeah. not even Saeed Benrahma Riyad Mahrez Algeria.
Yeah. As you kind of go through that list, and you've probably got to put Roy Hodgson in there as well. These days, like as tactics developed, he became more of that number 10. And England never really had that during that time. Fabio Capello's style was very slow, Italian, strong defense. And it just didn't match up to Wayne Rooney's all-action style of, no, I'm going to do everything. Hodgson's tactics.
I was just laughing at Italian strong defence and then thinking, yeah, we were playing Glenn Johnson at right back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. As you kind of saw under, throughout his playing career, he played under managers who made him the focal point of that team. Or if he wasn't the focal point, that's because the other players around him were Cristiano Ronaldo, Carlos Tevez, players of that ilk.
I have to say, that's one thing that I think makes all of us, me included, I think it makes us look at his level and think, because you do tend to think he was brilliant, but maybe he could have been better. But I do think part of that is just because we think of him alongside Cristiano Ronaldo. And you end up comparing him to someone who is basically a complete freak of nature. And who also works incredibly hard, and obviously he does. But you're comparing him to one of the best players who's ever lived. And Wayne Rooney isn't one of the best players who ever lived, but he was at one point a world-class footballer.
I think the season after Ronaldo left, I think it's the 09-010 season, you really saw what Wayne Rooney could do on his own. Like, he took the extra weight for that Man United side and really gave it his all, because he wasn't just the striker that Dimitar Berbatov was, or the quick, tricky winger that Ronaldo was at his time when he were at Man United. He was basically everything and a bit of a central midfielder together, because his work rate was incredible. Although it was a bit too much sometimes, because he loved to get himself sent off or run into an hard tackle.
Sorry, just that description. You're just describing Alan Smith. only even I have to admit with a bit more talent.
No, I think you're dead on there. And again, one of the other issues you had with England was the amount of times he was played as a lone striker without a number 10 behind him. And then Wayne Rooney would go do what he does, where he's tracking players back really deep. And then, but England being England, we get possession, and then we never really had that outlet up there, which I think was quite frustrating.
Yeah, we get the ball.
Wayne Rooney's chased back to help Glenn Johnson out at right back.
Yeah, he's got the ball on our touchline and then hoofs the ball forward to where he should be.
But, do you remember the Nike advert where he goes in goal for a bit? That is basically Wayne Rooney for England, to be honest.
I thought you were going to say in the caravan with that beard.
Or in the brothel with... Never mind. Or the casino.
Okay.
He was...
I'll get a hair transplant.
I was going to say, as much as we focused on the international stuff, like at club level, he did win everything. He won everything you can win.
Yeah.
Like, he was a really great footballer. Like, had he had the exact same career with the same style of play and gone Everton, Arsenal, instead, he'd probably be one of my favourite players. But the problem is he did it all for Man United, so I spent a long time wanting him to do sod all and disliking him.
It's so funny as well because, well, I suppose with all young players that come through, you kind of have a typical image of an 18-year-old footballer coming through in your head, of kind of fairly slight build, and you'll see them put a bit of muscle on over the next couple of years as they kind of adapt. Wayne Rooney, as a 16-year-old, was built like a 45-year-old bricklayer.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of him playing under-18s football is mind-blowing to me.
Well, you have to remember, he did stop playing under-18s football when he was like 15.
Yeah. He's just built like a grown man.
Yeah.
So when you see him come in and making his debut and that, he never looks out of place. Like Michael Owen, as well as having a baby face, was so slight. And even though obviously he was a very quick player, he's and kind of relied on being a bit lighter, you still saw him put on that muscle as he kind of got older to help protect himself a bit more. And Wayne Rooney just did not need that period in his career. So when he stepped into the Everton team, he was just a grown man going up against other grown men. And you never really saw the difference.
He's 35 now, is Rooney. And you'd think of him as older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the way his career's been. He feels like he should be 38, 39. But as a 16-year-old, he's the best player I've ever seen at that age.
Apart from James Milner.
Well, obviously, apart from James. But, obviously, everyone thinks of that goal against Everton. But I don't, because around about 2 weeks later, he came to Elland Road and Everton beat us 1-0. And he scored the goal. And if I remember rightly, he skinned Lucas Radebe, who was a really good defender, who was particularly good one-on-one tackling. Skinned him, put him on his arse, made him look foolish. Low-driven shot, far corner. And it was... You just looked... You would have never... If you just came in blind, you would have bet your house that he was 25 and an established international.
Yeah.
Like, he really... It's not like he was playing it for 90 minutes, but you could just tell that he was something special.
Yeah, I always, as a Man United fan, I always liked the abstract players. I liked Rooney, but he was never my favourite player because I was always someone that would pick like Ji-Sung Park or Paul Scholes. I was going to say
like Cleberson or someone.
Gabriel Heinze.
Massive mark for Eric Jemba.
So good, they named him twice. Quinton Fortune as well. No, I appreciated what he could do, but the thing that always stuck in my mind as a Man United fan was the first Champions League night where he scores his hat-trick against Fenerbahce. And as I think at that time, 17-year-old on his hat-trick just takes the ball away and goes, no, I'm taking this free kick. And just puts it into the top corner. Like, you could see the establishment as a player and the career that he was going to go on to have. People have those glimpses and probably don't end up having anywhere near the career that glimpse shows, but he just had something different about him.
Yeah. As much as I never want him to score one for him, if I was picking a Man United goal, it'd be that first time volley from like 30 yards out against Newcastle.
Oh, just as you were about to come off.
Yeah, that was a brilliant goal. No one can pick the overhead kick against Man City because he shinned that. He messed it up and got
And again, he could score any type of goal. He could be a poacher, just being there to tap things in from 3 yards out. He could hit free kicks. He could hit volleys. As an all-round footballer, there's not like. Again, I go back to that Nike advert. I do feel like if in an emergency, you probably could have put him in at centre back for a game, and I think he'd have done a decent job of it. He had the strength, he had speed. I thought, mentally, I think he read the game very well. There's not and clearly he could also play in goal as we got to see. So. There was one of the Football Managers where I think they gave him a decent goalkeeper rating the year after that advert as well, which I quite liked.
They put him in as like awkward at goalkeeper.
Yeah, he could do anything.
We talk about goals. My actual favourite goal for him is the one where it's like pretty much the same as Cantona's chip, just outside the box and just lobs. I think it's Portsmouth and it's David James that he lobs.
It's not that good then, is it?
Just dinks. Shut up. If I'd have said it's Casilla in goal, then yes, no, it wouldn't have been as good.
I tell you, there's a genuine comparison I think to be made there. Actually, no, let's not compare David James and Kiko Casilla because Kiko might have some outrageous opinions on David James.
Just because I have to, if I really did have to pick out one memory of Wayne Rooney, it's Championship Manager 03-04 and his amazing partnership up front with Thailand's greatest ever export, Supat Rungratsamy. As they fired my Everton side to the Champions League.
Oh dear. And
the daft thing is for me, and as we kind of joke on our wrestling podcast, if no one's aware, I've been and worked in America for a while. It doesn't come up that often, but the goal he sets up in the MLS playoffs,
I know which one.
Where Dixie United have thrown men forward, keepers up, ball gets cleared, Wayne Rooney chases back, and even in his 30s at this point, I don't know where he gets the legs and the speed from. Makes an absolutely crunching tackle about 10 yards into his own half. Picks up the ball, dribbles back 20 yards, and floats in just an absolute pin-perfect cross that's headed in, and it gives DC United the win. And it really summed up everything that Wayne Rooney's about. The heart and desire to, because it would have been so easy to go, that's it, game's over now. But Wayne Rooney is like, no, I have to go win this ball back. And then to get it and put in a cross like that, 95 minutes into a game or whatever it is at that point, it just speaks his ability and his desire.
Yeah, does this work? Because if this does work...
Jack, we're not sharing a video. Remember what happened last time.
Oh, yeah. Well, that should be copyright free at this stage, but you're right, just in case.
Yeah, let's talk. We don't want it taken down after 5 seconds.
Yeah, we are long past where it should be a problem because it was years ago. But you're right. I'll try and mess it up.
But as KC stated, we have got a wrestling podcast that all three of us are on. And if you want to go over to Twitter at Armchair Wrestle One, there's an opportunity to win a free hoodie. The draw is going to take place on the 30th of January. It is pinned to the top of our Twitter, so all you've got to go over and do is like the tweet, tag a friend, and come follow us over on there. You'll be entered. We'll be doing a live show for Armchair Wrestling, and I'm telling you both now, whether you're available or not, Armchair Wrestling will be going live January 30th, looking at the Rumble and also doing the draw for the free hoodie. So you come over and watch that.
Cool. Do I need to put together a Royal Rumble sweepstake for that live show?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
My legendary Royal Rumble sweepstakes.
But
where literally pounds have been won.
Tens and tens of pounds.
Well, let's pushing it a bit.
But that'll do us for this episode of Stand Your Ground. If you want to check out more of Jack and KC, you can go over to Mighty White's Pod. This has also been live on their Twitter as well, which is at Mighty White's Pod. They also go live on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you get your podcasts.
I am
not Parler. That was a joke.
Yeah, we're not on Parler because we tend to organise our things even more under the radar.
I'll tell you what, how many followers would we get just for our name on Parler?
Oh, we'd get millions.
I tell you, we'd get verified like that.
Oh, yeah, do the podcast, and I'd just become even more lefty to spite them. If any Leeds fans are out there, we'll be live tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure what time, but live tomorrow.
And if you want to check out any more of the three of us, you can check out Armchair Wrestling, which is that is the Twitter handle for Armchair Wrestling, and we're also on Instagram at Armchair Wrestling as well. And if you want to check anything else out on The Buzz, there's some fantastic shows that go live here and on the website at whatthebuzz.com, where we write all those articles as well. But thank you to Jack and Casey for coming on this episode.
No problems, mate. In a bit.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
And we'll see you on the next episode. In a bit.